आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. The purpose of the human life is to gain this knowledge of oneness with Bhagavan, with Ishvara. And the sixth chapter iterates this point very well by making as the protagonist of the story a young man, Shvetaketu, who is extremely erudite. This is underscored, his erudition and learning are underscored both in chapter 6 and in the following chapter, chapter 7, where Narada is our hero, the one who is going in search for this knowledge. And in chapter 8 of the same Chandogya Upanishad, we have Indra as the protagonist, extremely famous, well versed, and well known as the king of all the Devatas. These examples of highlighting these kinds of individuals is to show that no matter how much well learned one may be, no matter what one's accomplishments, no matter how well known one is, still without this knowledge one is incomplete. Without this knowledge one cannot drop samsara. Without this knowledge one cannot drop a sense of security centered on the self. So one may try to garner learning, keep on learning. Some people like this, keeping on getting degrees, keeping on learning, and keeping on accomplishing things, being very famous, all these things. And then still one suffers, despite all these efforts, one suffers from a sense of insecurity centered on the self. And that insecurity morphs into arrogance, morphs into having a aloof attitude towards the world, being cut off, being constantly disappointed, so many different ways one uses, so socially acceptable ways to mask this insecurity. This is what we see in the story. So the story is not actually necessary to give the message of Tattvamasi. You can just straight away say, talk about whatever there needs to be talked about. But the Upanishad is like a mother, a loving, functional mother. She's compassionate, and she knows that with this kind of an insecure, distracted mind, one will not be able to grasp the essence of the teaching. And so the story becomes a medium to swallow the teaching easily, despite the resistance of the ahankara. That is that is the reason for the story. It soothes, and it depersonalizes it enough to be able to sit and pay attention. Otherwise, if the Upanishad were to say all your learning is useless, one immediately mounts a certain kind of a defense. What do you mean? I spent so much, I'm still paying student loans off. How can you say that my learning is useless? One big bristles. So all your accomplishments, you became the CEO of this and the CFO of that, and all this is useless. What do you mean? I'm well known. Google me, and then you'll see how much I'm well known. So, if the Upanishad were to directly address you, even in the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, it has to depersonalize it enough so that you will sit and listen. Abba, thank God, it's about some Shvetu somewhere long time ago. Babhuva, this is all remote past. Asa was there long time ago. It has nothing to do with me. I am okay. I am a eager, wonderful, well prepared student of Vedanta. It doesn't have to do with me. So it depersonalizes it so that one can hone in on the teachings because it is about somebody else after all. The moving finger, still it's Shvetaketu. See, ha ha ha. Look at him. Lots of things to, see in him. And the story this way moves forward. There once was Shvetaketu. Habba, thank God it's not me. Okay, next. What else do you want me to know about this Shvetaketu? This Shvetaketu was the grandson of Aruna. Okay, big deal. So what? Well, so this means something. Aruna was a great scholar, and his son Uddalaka, another great scholar, not just scholar but also teachers of Brahma Vidya. Shvetaketu, zero, not a teacher of Brahma Vidya, and also was extremely late in going to the Gurukula. And his father was very erudite, and he seems to have been a very indulgent and a kind father, and not and a very and he treats his son even at the age of 12 as capable of making decisions. He doesn't say, hey boy, you're wasting your time, go study. He gives him a reason. So at 12 years old, Shvetaketu is there without his thread ceremony, the age of his thread ceremony, which means the initiation into Veda is soon passing, because there is a window of time where the thread ceremony and the initiation and the taking to the guru has to be done. And that is between ages 8 and 12. So he's on the other side of it, almost. The age of the thread ceremony is passing very quickly. And then, Shvetaketu is still playing around at home. And then Uddalaka addresses him. Shvetaketu, oh Shvetaketu, walk it to work. Shvetaketu, then and and he says, look, I think it's a good idea for you to go and stay at a gurukulam and study. Why? There are many reasons, of which only one reason is made explicit by Uddalaka. The other reasons we can extrapolate and have fun with it, okay? Just like Adi Shankara in his commentary also has some, makes some, what is that, Anumana, inferences and interpretations. So the reason that is given explicitly in the Upanishad is Uddalaka, the father of Shvetaketu, telling Shvetaketu a compelling reason, giving Shvetaketu a really compelling reason to go to university, Gurukula. And what is the reason that is given? He says, hey Shvetu, oh, I thought his name was Shvetaketu. It's after all father, lovingly addressing. Hey Shvetu, you know what? In our family, in our kula, Asmat Kule, in our kula, in our extended family, in our lineage, in our family lineage, there is no one that has not gone to university. There is no one that has not gone to Gurukula. And these are all traditions that need to be kept up, just like family recipes. This is how in our family we make chocolate cake. All other chocolate cakes are just so boring, not even worth looking at. In our family recipe has been secretly handed down from generation to generation. And in order to qualify for that, You have to take Punarjanma in order if you want this recipe, like very guarded, traditions. And one of the very beautiful guarded tradition is that in this lineage are all, each one is a star. Each one is brilliant. Each one has excelled in their, in their commitment to this knowledge, and they have all gone to Gurukula. This is nobody is there, and and then here one uh, one important question one has to ponder over: why did not Uddalaka, being so learned himself, homeschool Shvetaketu? Because there is such a thing called homeschooling. All this was learned from the Veda, okay? Yeah. Now suddenly now we think we have come up with the homeschooling new term. That was there before also. So Uddalaka himself knew he could have initiated Shvetaketu in the Veda. Why doesn't he do this? The Upanishad is silent on the question. But from what ensues later on, we can extrapolate why. This, you know, this is to show something very, very interesting. This is to show that, just as the child becomes what is called in America a tween, neither, not yet a teen, tween. So when the child enters tween age, they don't listen to the parents. They don't, they are not available for homeschooling of any kind. And so what do they want? They just want to play. They have reactivity. Hormones are raging of all kinds. This is the best time to send them to Gurukula. Your child's teenage is another guru's problem. Very nice, fantastic. Gives a break to the parents. Fantastic system, I tell you. And also, they will not act out so much there because they'll be with other children. And there is a mechanism in the Gurukulam. They are put on a diet of, classes from morning to night: chanting class, Sanskrit class, Veda class. After that, another Veda class. After that, yet another Veda class. After that, one more Veda class. And then after that, bedtime. So from morning to night, they are busy. Their energy is channeled in such a way that they don't have time for, not too much time for mischief. And besides, other people are also going through the same things. So there is a way to explain this. There is a way to do this, with least issues. And not only the guru used to be there, sometimes there would be gurukulas with the teachers as the guru, and guru patni, guru's wife, was also acharya. That is, so she would also take care of all these issues, and together they would be parented by people who are more objective to these kinds of problems. So the Upanishad wants to show us a very healthy model of parenting. Very, very nice. So that could be one reason. And the other reason could be, as Adi Shankara postulates, that Uddalaka, being a very famous person, was invited to give lectures all over the place. And so he was often out of town, which is the reason he had to farm out Shvetaketu to another teacher. The first example in the Vedas of outsourcing. So he had to outsource his son to another teacher who would teach because he himself was out of town. This is Adi Shankara's postulation. This is Adi Shankara's, anumana. Anumana means some kind of an inference based on based on the happenings. Then the story moves very quickly. We don't know which guru he went to. We don't know what he did in class, etc. But then he went at the age of 12, and at the age of 24 came back. Ayaya. Ayaya means returned home, but with a few changes. Yeah, of course, there'll be few changes. He was learned, not only learned, he was Mahamanaha, one of the words the Upanishad uses. Greatly intelligent, yes. But along with the great intelligence came arrogance. arrogance in the learning, and strutting around like a peacock. And here, this is what is called manita or manitvam. Manah asya asti iti manin. Another word, mani. The one who has pride. And here, this is to differentiate from another Sanskrit word, which we encounter in the Bhagavad Gita, dambha. Dambha means arrogance and pride without having the accomplishments. One is proud of something one has not done. Dambha, dambhitvam. And then manita or manitvam means pride in what one has achieved. Both of those are dangerous for the sake of self knowledge. That's why the Bhagavad Gita, in the early verses of the 13th chapter, starts by listing the qualifications for self knowledge. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, both are written there, So lack or absence of manitvam, absence of pride, empty pride, absence of pride with regard or with reference to one's accomplishments, both are tantamount to disqualifying one from this knowledge, because one is full of oneself. One is not really interested in anything else that is happening. So, self knowledge, why do I need self knowledge? I know who I am. Who are you? I am an expert in the Sama Veda, would say Shvetaketu. Ask me any chant. I can sing it. Sama Veda is something that is sung, very beautiful. I can sing it. And you know what? I can sing it backwards and forwards. And then you pick any word from the Samaveda. Because I had a perfect GPA at the university, at the Gurukula, and then I had no problems. I aced everything. I was the teacher's favorite. You ask me anything, I will tell you. And later on, Uddalaka is going to remove this pride very, very nicely. He just makes Shvetaketu fast for 15 days. Don't eat anything during the teaching. And then he says, okay, now sing the Rathantara Samagana. What? Who? I don't remember. Who? How. This is the beginning of the Samaveda. This is how it is sung. And he couldn't even get through the first line. What comes after ha? Ooh, that also he couldn't remember. Ha. He tried to warm up. Then again, ha. He stopped at ha, got stuck at ha. Okay. And then he said, I can't sing. I can't remember. I don't remember any mantra. Okay, go eat and then come back and then try to chant. Then he goes, and has a square meal. Then he comes back and then chants, only to show that that there is a whole colony of reasons why you are able to sing, why you are able to chant, why you have the gifts that you do. It has actually nothing to do with you. There's a whole litany of reasons why you are able to have the abilities that you have, why these blessings are that blessings. They are not your accomplishments. But Shvetaketu, just out of university, Najanati, doesn't know this. So he comes back all, you know, like a like a young man from even the contemporary age. This is kind of heartening, because we know that now that the young people from this age were not very different from the young people in ancient times. Young, restless, not interested in anything except themselves. And so Shvetaketu was all of the above. So came back completely aloof. Stabdaha is the word used by the Upanishad. Stabdaha means rigid like a tree stump, not flexible, had an aloof, not pliable, not responding to relationships, not responding to love, not responding to even some commands like pass the salt at the dinner table. And seeing Shvetaketu not passing the salt, his parents got very worried. He was not communicative. And these may seem normal in the contemporary times. This is the normal post teenager, feeling invincible, full of themselves, not really interested in anything. But this was not normal for Uddalaka, the father. The father and the mother did not consider it normal. Like we said, like we mentioned earlier, they come from a lineage of people who are humbled by knowledge, who know Brahma Vidya, and here they were not, they were not impressed by this fellow strutting around like a peacock and making a great what should I say, making a great fool of himself, conceited, anuchanamani, conceited with regard to his ability to recall the words of the Veda without really knowing the meaning of the words of the Veda. So it's like a person, who chants Om Brahmavida apnoti param Tadeshabhyukta. Oh, is part of the chanting exercise to look around? No, no, no. This person is looking around to see how many people are looking around at him or her. This person is looking around to make sure that everybody is impressed with his infallible swaras, notations that go up and down. So, this is, this was Shvetaketu, a sad, excuse for a son. So thought, so thought the father. And so you see, you have to be very careful when you approach young people and say, well, I think you are really arrogant. That's not the way to do it. Because they will say, I'm leaving home. I don't need this. I'm not coming out of my room. Maybe they don't want to leave home because still they are on their parents' insurance and everything at 24. And so, so they're not ready to leave home. So then they will say, I will treat this house more and more like a hotel. And then they will not be attracted to Brahma Vidya. In fact, Uddalaka accomplishes the impossible, to bring Shvetaketu back to this knowledge at an age where he is interested in anything but the knowledge. There is another wonderful text, Bhaja Govindam. And there is one nice verse. And so it answers the question, what is the correct age to study Brahma Vidya? And those who are students of Brahma Vidya and sitting in ashrams, they have a small regret. Why didn't I start at the age of 5? By this time, I would have just got this. When my memory was there, when the strength was there, why did I have to wait till I was 40 to reach the ashram? Why did I have? There is a secret regret. Not only people living in ashrams, but people even outside who are sincere seekers. They have this secret regret that they nurture inside themselves. And so the Bhaja Govindam says very nicely, Balastavat Krida Saktah. As a child, this Brahma Vidya doesn't generally speak to you because the child is always uh, absorbed in play, one toy after another toy. And so there is no time to toy with Brahma Vidya, even as a possibility doesn't exist. Oh, okay, I should wait till I'm a young woman or a young man, and then everything will come. Tarunastavat taruni raktaha. The young person is interested only in another young person. That is all. That is the law of the land. Oh, okay. So maybe I should wait till I finish all my responsibilities, my duties towards the family, towards the society, and wait till I'm old. And then I should get into Brahma Vidya. Vriddhastavat chinta magnaha. At the old age comes all kinds of anxieties. What will happen to my children after I go? What will happen to my property? What will happen to this? What will happen to that? Will my children get along? Will they recognize my last wishes? And forget about the children. How will I die? Will it be quick? Gone. It's kind of nice. But then I won't have time to say goodbye to my significant others, to my children, to all the people, my friends, my group, my central people in my life. Oh, what a travesty. Maybe I should die, after a short illness. But then what if the short illness is full of suffering? And what if the short illness due to medical interventions becomes long? And then who will take care of me? No one. Already they don't listen to me. And so nobody will be there. I'll be just lying there, staring at the ceiling from the nursing home bed. Not nice. These are this kind of worries are there in the mind of the person at old age. And the Bhajagovindam sadly concludes, Pare Brahmani Kopina Lagna. No one is really interested in Brahma Vidya. So, therefore, you see, it is such a grace to be able to listen to something like this, like the Chandogya Upanishad, like any Upanishad, because all the message is same. It has ekavakyata. And so it is such a blessing because the sources of distraction at any given age is so many distractions. And so Uddalaka should receive a big salute from all of us. We have to do namaskar to Uddalaka. He has done the impossible. And Shvetaketu, at an age where he was only solipsistic, interested in himself, he has brought him back to Brahma Vidya. And you see why Shvetaketu example is given, because if someone like him, who is young, who has the whole world and the to look forward to, whole life to look forward to, and at young age one feels invincible, and one feels completely like I can conquer everything, and at that age if he can be brought about, cannot the teachings of Uddalaka move us even a little bit? Definitely they will. Because if it worked on Shvetaketu, it will work on everyone. That is the idea. So he uses some wonderful methods to bring back Shvetaketu into the conversation. The first question he asks his son is this: Hey Shvetu, did you ask for that teaching, knowing which everything is as well known? Did you ask for that knowledge, knowing which everything is as good as understood, as good as known, as good as received? Shvetaketu is like in awe. Is there such a knowledge? What do you mean? And then later he tells, my teachers must not have known this because this is, I was their favorite student. If they had known this, I was the most brilliant. They would have taught it to me only. Who else would be receiving this knowledge? Another extended example of his arrogance. Then, then what happens? Then, Uddalaka asks the question again. I'm not asking what your teacher knew or not knew. Here is again the moving finger, blaming the teacher. It's the teacher's fault that I don't know this. I'm asking about you. Did you ask for that knowledge? Knowing which everything is known. That knowledge is like a master key that you put in the lock and turn around, and then the doors to the wonderland of Ananda, oneself as Ananda open. Did you ask for that knowledge? And then he finally acquiesces to the teaching and he says, "Is there such a knowledge? Please teach me." And now Uddalaka, the father, turns into the teacher. And that itself is a very interesting transformation. And what methodologies he uses to teach, and how he communicates the oneness, Tattvamasi, we will see in the next class. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Thank you.